On July 19th, 2026, Spain beat Argentina in the World Cup final in New Jersey. Incredible game. But here's the number nobody talks about the next morning. This tournament made FIFA over $9 billion. Not in a decade, in 1 month. That's more money than some countries' entire GDP. And it didn't come from ticket sales alone. It came from something football fans almost never think about, because they're too busy watching the ball. A month of unforgettable football, historic goals, national pride, heroes, heartbreak. But every great magic trick works the same way. While everyone is looking over here, someone else is making billions over there. Today, we're not watching the match. We're walking behind the curtain. Because the real story never happened on the ground.
Let's start with the trend line because it tells you everything. Brazil 2014. FIFA made about $2.6 billion. Russia 2018, $5.3 billion. Qatar 2022, $7.5 billion. This year, North America, over $9 billion, with FIFA's full 4-year commercial cycle landing around $13 billion total. That's not organic growth. That's not football got a little more popular. That's a business that has been deliberately, aggressively scaled, the same way a tech company scales a product. Broadcasting rights alone brought in close to $4 billion this year, the single largest slice of the pie. Sponsorships added another $2.8 billion or more. Ticketing and hospitality tripled compared to Qatar, from under $1 billion to over $3 billion. And here's the part that should bother you. This tournament had 48 teams and 104 matches, instead of 32 teams and 64 matches. More games, sure, but also more ad slots, more broadcast windows, more merchandise drops. The sport didn't get bigger. The product did.
Here's where it gets uncomfortable. Hosting a World Cup used to be about stadiums and fan culture. Now, it's a bidding war, and the bidders aren't just countries who love football. They're countries who see the tournament as a marketing budget. Qatar spent an estimated $200 billion building out infrastructure for 2022, stadiums, transit, hotels, for a single month of matches. That's not a football budget. That's a national rebrand. To be fair, this isn't one-sided. Supporters of hosting say it modernizes infrastructure, boosts tourism for decades, and puts smaller footballing nations on the world stage. Critics say it lets governments launder their global image using football's popularity as the shield. Both arguments show up every single cycle, and FIFA has never fully answered which one it actually is. And it's not slowing down. The 2034 World Cup is already headed to Saudi Arabia, a bid that went through essentially unopposed in a process critics say was fast-tracked. Whatever your opinion on that, one thing is clear. World Cup hosting isn't decided by who has the best fans anymore. It's decided by who can write the biggest check and make the strongest case to FIFA's decision-makers.
I'll be honest, I almost didn't make this video because I didn't want it to sound like football bad, money bad. That's not the point. Money isn't the villain here. The problem is what happens when money becomes the entire strategy. Let me show you where that actually shows up on the pitch, not just around it. FIFA expanded this tournament to 48 teams and 104 matches. Great for smaller nations getting a shot on the world stage. But it also means players who already play 60-plus games a year for their clubs are now stacking an extra month of high-intensity international football on top of that. Player unions have raised real concerns about burnout and injury risk from the calendar getting more crowded, not less. FIFA's response has largely been to point at the extra revenue those extra games generate. That trade-off, player health versus broadcast inventory, barely gets discussed outside of football media, but it's a direct result of the same commercial expansion we just talked about. Even the venues got picked with money and broadcast windows in mind more than player conditions. This tournament scheduled matches in cities where heat exceeded safe play thresholds in more than half the stadiums, according to independent player welfare researchers. FIFA's fix was hydration breaks, which helps, but it's a patch, not a redesign.
And here's the detail that made me actually annoyed while researching this. FIFA's marketing and sponsorship revenue alone has grown over 150% since 2010. That's not the World Cup growing more beloved. That's FIFA getting dramatically better at selling ad space around it, while ticket prices for ordinary fans have climbed right alongside it. So who's actually the customer here? For decades, it was the fan in the stadium. Increasingly, it's the broadcaster and the sponsor, and the fan is just the audience being sold to them.
So what do you actually do with all this?
Here's the part of the video that's actually useful, not just football's corrupt.
but how to read the next World Cup cycle like an informed viewer instead of just a fan. 1. Broadcasters, sponsors, and host governments are the primary financial winners of this system, not necessarily the sport itself, and not always the players. When a new host is announced, ask what that country gets out of it beyond love of football. Usually the honest answer involves tourism revenue, global image, or both. 2. The costs land on two groups: fans through rising ticket and hospitality prices, and players through an increasingly packed calendar. Neither group has much say in FIFA's commercial decisions, even though both groups are the reason the product has any value at all. 3. Watch the next host announcement, not the next match. That's where you'll actually see FIFA's real priorities, because host selection is the clearest signal of whether this organization is optimizing for football or for revenue. Right now, the data says revenue. None of this means the World Cup stops being incredible to watch. Spain-Argentina in that final was a genuinely great match. But incredible to watch and run purely in football's interest are two completely different claims. And this tournament increasingly asks you to believe both are the same thing.
Is the World Cup bad now? No, it's just honest about what it's become. The biggest commercial sporting product on Earth, wearing football as its packaging. That's not a conspiracy, it's just business, at a scale most fans never get shown. Here's my question for you, wherever you're watching from. Do you think the next host, Saudi Arabia in 2034, gets picked because of football or because of money? Drop your honest answer in the comments. I want to see this argued out by people from every country watching this, because that's exactly the debate FIFA doesn't want front and center. If this made you see the World Cup differently, hit subscribe. The World Cup isn't just about football. It's about attention. And in today's world, attention is one of the most valuable assets anyone can own. If you enjoyed this documentary, subscribe for more videos that reveal the business behind the world's biggest events and companies. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.